Good to see you guys here. We're going to go ahead and get stuff started. This is Industry Insight, featured by the Department of Sound. This is where we get a chance to connect industry professionals and specialists with the youth and people that are attempting to learn and create. Today, we have a great guest with us today. Jason Heffler will be giving us a presentation today, helping us figure out how to kind of pitch your music, giving you some identity to the products that you're kind of going to be working on. So, without any further ado, I'm going to let him introduce himself. He has some great stuff to show us. So, Jason, welcome, man. Appreciate you coming out.
Thank you. Sure.
How you doing, man?
Good, man. I appreciate you guys having me, and I'm gonna drop some knowledge on how to pitch your music and tell your story. And I'm pumped. Let's do it.
Great, man. Well, if you don't mind, man, tell us a little about you first before you get into the presentation, man. Where you're from, kind of what got you here, and why you're here.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm originally from PA. I grew up there, and then I ended up migrating out to Cali after college. So I moved here in 2014, and I started producing music right around that time. I went to school out here for about a year, and then I started writing about music as well. I got into some good publications, some blogs. So I ended up launching a smaller career as a journalist. And then the farther along I got as a journalist, the more musical opportunities I got, just speaking to all the managers and the agents and all them. So the two careers started to commingle and help each other grow. And then all of that led to me being the editor-in-chief of EDM.com. And that's where I am now.
Very cool, man. Appreciate you sharing the journey with us, man. And all right, man, I'm going to give you the floor, and why don't you start to put some knowledge on us.
Let's do it. All right, let me just share my screen, get this going.
And right before you go, folks, as you're coming in, I'm just going to let you know we're going to take questions at the end. If you have anything you'd like to say, you can put it in the chat for now. We're going to let Jason go ahead and get through what he has to say, and then we'll take questions at the end. So those that are coming in, again, feel free to put your things in the chat, and we will get to you as we go forward. So, all right, go ahead, Jason.
Cool. So the reason why we're all here is so I can tell you guys how important it is to pitch your music once it's out to blogs, press, all that. Because the story behind your stuff is just as important as the music itself. So let's get into it. So your music's out. You've dropped it. It's in the world. What is next? It's a huge question that not a lot of producers know. They think that they can just put out their stuff and people will hear it, but not quite the case. So 40,000 songs are uploaded to Spotify every single day. It's an insane number, but it's true. So how can your music get discovered? Press is one of those ways, especially right now when we're in a pandemic, when everyone's eyes are just glued to their screens. They're constantly looking at websites and blogs to discover new stuff. So if you're able to secure press, it opens up your stuff to a wider audience that you otherwise would not hit. Oh, sorry about that. So when you're pitching to these blogs, you have to craft a good pitch. Because at the end of the day, if the music is the heart, the pitch is the heartbeat. It's what breathes life into it, and it's what gives it, clarity. So your story is just everything. It's the most clutch part of the music. Your music can't just live on its own as a a combination of kick drums and snares. There has to be a backstory. So when you're crafting your pitch, you should think about these questions. Why did you make the song in the first place? What experiences inspired it? Did you overcome any challenges that led to the song? What do you hope to accomplish with it? And really, what makes you different from those other 40K songs that were released that day? That's the big one, is really what makes you different, because it's very hard to cut through all the other noise. So when you're thinking about what to write in your pitch, don't be scared to be vulnerable and put yourself out there. That's what I do. That's what I've done my whole career. In my pitch, I tell my story. So what I do, and I'm sure you all can hear it, I have a stutter. It's something that I was born with. I can't help it. It's just, I speak a little differently than others. And when I started making music, I was having trouble getting in blogs because I didn't have a story. So I started to use my stutter to my advantage. And I started pitching out, and I eventually secured this story where a big podcast let me write this monster, like, I guess you can call it like a profile on myself. And they published it. And this was the first time where I started to really get good press. So it just goes to prove that if you aren't scared to talk about your flaws, people will respond. So how to craft it? Let's actually get into the nitty gritty here. So what you want to do is think about it like a movie, with a trailer, a beginning, a middle, an end, and then your ending credits. Okay? So subject line is your trailer. You need to write a short but punchy subject line. It needs to grab their attention, because otherwise they're not even going to click on it. A writer like me will not even click on an email if it has a boring or just a subject line that doesn't make any sense. So just like how you wouldn't watch a film if the trailer was bad, a writer will not click open unless you have a good line, a subject line. So once you have your subject line, you start with an intro. So you want to do 1 to 2 sentences where you introduce yourself and you write your name, the song title, and any background or accomplishments that you think are impressive. But don't write too much here. This needs to be short, because writers don't really have time they don't care about your dreams and your aspirations. They just need to hear about you and then hear the song, and then the rest of the pitch is where you really explain your background. So that's where we get here, the middle. So you want to do 1 to 2 paragraphs about the inspiration behind the song. So a big thing that I get in a lot of my pitches is music producers will only talk about the audio itself and how they think it's a banger or it's lit or they want to destroy the clubs. That's not something that we want to hear. That's what everyone in the world wants to do with their music. So you have to think about it in the eyes of what we want to hear. Why is your song unique? What makes it special? And why would our readers appreciate it? We don't want to hear that your song is going to crush the next festival or what have you. So at the end, just like a movie, you need to tie a bow on your pitch. So you need to explicitly say, I would like you to write about my song, or are you interested in an interview? Something along those lines, where you're not shy and you just go out and ask. Because if you don't ask, we're just not going to know what you want. It's that simple. And then of course you want to just say, thank you for your consideration and your time. And then the credits are just all the best, and then put your name in. This might sound like, it might sound obvious, but you'd be surprised how many people just send 1 to 2 sentences in an email and then don't even end it with a farewell. It's a sign of professionalism if you just write a quick, best, your name. So that's what, if you wanted to put the pitch into I guess a timeline, that's what it would look like. Subject line, and then intro, story, ask, and the outro. So here's a good pitch example. So this is for an artist named Fluency, which amazing name. But you wouldn't really know it unless you got a good pitch. So they started out with explaining their style. So it's a feature funk style, blah, blah, blah. And then they talked about how many streams and followers, which in this case, it's a lot. But I'm aware that if you're starting out, you might not have this. So you should just explain what kind of style you produce and what you hope to produce down the line. So and then the second paragraph here is what is very clutch and crucial. So he explained that the song that they were pitching was to pay homage to his father, who was a Frisbee player. And his name, Fluency, was named after a special Frisbee move or something. So I thought that was an incredible story that no other blog would have. And it also explained the story behind the guy's name. So this is something that I just immediately said, yes, I would like to cover it. And then we premiered that song. So you can see just a quick sentence here about his music, and then a paragraph here about the background, the story. So now let's get to a bad pitch example, and you'll see why I'm giggling here in a minute. This is a pitch that I received actually like a week ago. So the subject line is just, let's get down to it. That explains nothing. It's brash. It's abrasive. It just shows that they wanted to, invade my inbox. So it starts with, hey, I'm DJ Blank, and I'm reaching out to you for some more exposure. See, that's not a reason a writer will want to help you. Everybody wants exposure. And then he says, I want to keep this simple and just ask you for help with either an interview or post. I was featured in DJ Times magazine, and I am gaining a lot of exposure. So he says he's gaining a lot of exposure here, but up top he said, I need more exposure. So he's essentially contradicting himself. And then they close it out with, let me know if we can connect and figure out. So basically this, all it explains is their name and that they want more fame. There's no storyline. There's not even a song that they pitched. This is what you don't do. Okay, so once you have your pitch and it's all, neatly stacked up like we talked about, you want to go to your favorite blogs, all the EDM.coms and all of them, and you find the writers and you just toss them all into a spreadsheet. And people think that it's hard to find the emails and the contacts of these guys, but it's not. Just Google the name, the publication, and then the word, like just the word email, and you'll be able to find it. It's really not hard. And then once you have that list, just crank out each pitch, just bam, 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 send them out. But one thing that you need to always remember, because it might get lost, because you're sending out like 100 pitches, you should always include the writer's name. Say, hi, Jason, and then the pitch, because it's like we like when a pitch is personalized, and we can tell if you're just copy and pasting to like a million writers. So you should always personalize it with that hey name. So a big thing with producers is they get a little irked if they don't get a response, which I was pissed earlier on in my career when I was producing and working my ass off and I wouldn't get a response. So it's a big problem, but this is something that my mom tells me to this day is the squeaky wheel gets the oil. You just don't be afraid to follow up and ask and just keep on following up, because when we don't respond to producers, it's not personal. We get thousands of emails weekly, and it's just physically impossible it's physically impossible to respond to all of them. So when you get silence, it's not it's not mean. It's not like we're doing it on purpose. It's just that the email got lost. So don't be afraid to follow up and say, hey, just checking in to see if you've heard the song, just wanted to get your thoughts on it. If you follow up 4 or 5 times, that's not a bad thing, and you could get a response. You always have to remember that writers like me want to hear your stories. We're always on the hunt for more content. So the more you follow up, the better your chances are of us hearing it. So I'm going to close with this because it's probably the most important aspect of pitching and storytelling and receiving responses, everything I spoke about. Taking rejection on the chin is crucial. It's such a major part of our industry, and not just with music production. Any role in the music industry comes with rejection, and you just have to take it to heart. Because if you never hear the word no, you won't force yourself to become a better producer, better writer, a better lighting guy, anything, any role, you're going to hear no a lot. But all it takes is just one yes. I mean, if you just keep on sending pitches and crafting them and perfecting them, you'll get that yes, and then it'll just get much easier as you go. So, I mean, I got rejected consistently for the first 3 years of my career. That's with production and writing. So let's say I would try to pitch a blog like EDM.com and say, hey, I have an idea that I'd like to write about. No. What about this idea? No. Just over and over and over again. And then finally, I would send a good pitch, and they say, oh, we like that. I'd love to have you. And then the same with production. Let's say you finish a song, and you think it's amazing, and then you send it to 10 labels, and they all reject you. that just means that that song may have not been right for that label, but the next one could be. So if you take that no and you think, okay, you know, next time I'll get them. They could sign it, and it could be a career launcher. So you just have to take rejection with respect, and hopefully it fuels you to better yourself. And that's really it. That's all I've got. So I guess we're gonna open it up to questions now.
Yeah, we will. Thanks a lot, man, for sharing that information. I know I have some questions for sure. So if and maybe I'm sorry, maybe I'm selfish to start. um, but really quick before, because we're working with youth, and when we say writers, they find content different ways. You know what I mean? So where people would go to a magazine before they go to some sites, like, so for those who don't really, they're not really getting the words of writers anywhere, they're around what they're doing, but how, you know, how would you say get to know some writers by checking out, other than your favorite one, you know what I mean? If they don't have a favorite one, where would you say this is how you can see what some people are writing about?
I mean, what I did was I didn't even have a favorite writer. I would just straight up pitch all of them. Every writer I could find, it's just an email, right? All it takes is one. And yeah, it just boils down to research and just diligently just putting them all into a spreadsheet. That's really it. I mean, there's no other way that I know how. It's just
No.
research is hardcore. Yeah.
Another one, and then I'll see if there's any questions you guys have or would like put in the chat. Yeah, I'd like to pick something. Do you how do you connect these to business plans, or do you do that with people at all? Is that, because it seems like it's kind of along those lines of taking your product to actually caring enough to make it a business and kind of connecting those things. How do you see those lines at all, and what would you kind of say to that?
I'm sorry, I don't get that. I don't understand that question.
So I guess the attack plan of putting contacts in a list, and then I'm gonna hit up these people, it's kind of a marketing plan for other people and other subject matters. So I think of it as an industry thing. So for somebody who's, all right, yeah, I'm making this song, I'm making this music, but now to them, all right, this is a product now, and I'm gonna market this product to these list of people that might want it. So that's what I was kind of I'm thinking, is that something you ever thought about, or is that something, how would you help them get from, I guess, I'm making this to I'm giving it to these people, where's the middle for them? Do you have any ideas or recommendations for that?
No, I mean, it's just when it comes to marketing, a lot of these artists, they have teams where they just dump money into publicists and streaming playlists and all that. So it's just when you're starting out and you make that spreadsheet, it's just all about being diligent and making sure you're following up and keeping track of which one you're pitching and who's responding. It's just, you just got to be diligent. Yeah.
No, great. I appreciate you entertaining my thought process, because for somebody who doesn't do it, to somebody who does, that's why it's great to have you here to share your insight. I did see that John put in the chat, how many
That's a
days
good one.
between your first email and your follow-up is appropriate?
That's a good one. So I think 4 days. That's my threshold. Yeah, I think definitely not the next day. That's pushy. It's kind of invasive. 4 days is my threshold. How many times is it okay to follow up? Honestly, do it as many times as you want. I think you should cap it at maybe 6. I think 6 is a lot. Yeah.
I think no. So what else besides press pitching do you think is important? Where else could we push other than press? Even though I guess it's not.
Where else?
Yeah.
I mean, I think obviously Spotify playlisting is massive. I mean, it's tricky because you can't get in touch with the Spotify, the playlist that they own and they operate. They're like a mythical, contact, and I don't even know how to reach them, but there are hundreds of thousands of curators who run their own playlists, and you can find them online as well. And I think if you're able to shoot them a cold email and establish a personal, connection, they can playlist you. And then, playlisting is massive now. I mean, it's everything. If you're able to get playlisting and press, you're golden.
If I was to try to find somewhere, a class or somewhere at a JC or something that would put me in the direction, or just to kind of help me, if I was trying to move this way, is there anything you might be able to recommend, or any thoughts on that, or your thoughts on, hey, this is an education route you can do, or you know what, you just have to grind this out, and the classroom might help you with some things, but kind of not. So
I never took any classes. I just learned on my own. I grinded. I Googled best journalism practices. But what I will say is that you don't need a journalism degree or something along those lines to break in to that world. If you want to write about music, all you have to do is just love it. And what I did was I would make a pitch, and I would say, here are 5 topics that I would like to write about. And then I would flash them out. And if an editor was feeling one of them, they would have me on as like a guest poster. And then that would spiral into me writing more and more and more. And then from there, you're meeting all of these, all these people in the industry. And it's just, writing is a good way to get your own music out there, because you can leverage all your contacts to market your own music. Yeah, so I think I went off topic there, but I think I kind of answered the question, right?
I have a question.
Sure.
I was thinking, so if, for example, you have like this, really, as you mentioned, so you have a track that you completely believe in as an artist, and you're thinking now about release, right? Do you try to get in some sort of negotiation in terms of like, specific websites or like blogs, in terms of having that debut, like that grand release, and knowing that if you have this, this is the first time, this is the world premiere, etc. Do you also open, since you're going in already and just sending like messages to like 100 different spots? How do you go about just like navigating that and figuring out also how to have a conversation about pitching something that you completely believe in and you think that this could go really well, for example, and pitching this to Pitchfork or whatever, any side? How do you go about that as an artist?
So are you asking about how to pitch a premiere instead of, just normal coverage?
A premiere, like a writing, yes. It's the first piece that's going to be released with your music. How do you go forward with that?
Yeah, so I mean, in your subject line, I would say, I would explicitly say the word premiere ? And then once you start the email, the pitch, you would say something along the lines of, I'd like to offer you the exclusive premiere. And you can, just getting a response from those big ones is tough. So you can say that to like 5 or 6 publications and say, I'd like to offer you the exclusive. And one of them could respond, and then the other 90 that you pitch, don't mention the premiere. Just say, I'd really appreciate general coverage.
Yeah. So basically just like have an idea also of the ones that you really would want, like for example, your top 10, and then just
10.
use that, yes, to pitch the fact that this is the premiere of this is the project. And then you can just go back to just like messaging as many as possible.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. But it's also important to, taper your expectations, because starting out, Pitchfork's not going to, Pitchfork's, So, but that's not to say that you can't offer a premiere to like a tier 2 blog. They could do like Complex. I know that they premiere a lot of stuff from small artists. So yeah, I'd say 5 or 6, give them the premiere, and the rest just, say general.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Sure. Looking at the chat here. Beyond getting emails in your inbox, where are you looking for music to write about? Do you organically write about music and new musicians? Yes. So there are times where I'll discover an artist, word of mouth, my texts like Spotify. There's a lot of avenues nowadays, but part of my job as an editor is to skim all the other sites and check them to see, who's hot, who's being covered. So I'd say about 90% of my discovery is on blogs and news sites. But that's just me because I'm an editor, so it's my job. So I can't really speak on everyone else and how they find their music.
Can you tell us some of the sites that you spend time looking at?
Yeah, wait, let me pull. I have like a grand list here. So I check Music Tech, Mixmag, DJ Mag, Resident Advisor, Dancing Astronaut, Digital Music News. I've got Billboard. I've got Music Business Worldwide. These are like the industry ones, but the more bloggy ones, I've got Complex. Yeah, that's pretty much the
Thanks.
gist of it.
You can put these as Jason's favorite websites to our students.
Oh, one more thing, Twitter. Don't be afraid to post and tag us on, or tag blogs on Twitter. You'd be surprised. People skim socials for that.
I don't know if anyone knows, there's this one I discovered, like, just throwing it out there, probably like 2 years ago. It's called Saint Heron, and I found that on Twitter. I think Solange and her label, I believe, is connected to them, but it's really good just to see a lot of like just like indie and just like grassroots people just like doing their stuff, releasing it, and getting also a platform to be on. So that's a good one to look at also, Saint Heron.
Cool. I'll definitely.
John threw one more in there.
If your song is a month old, is it too late to pitch to press, or best to wait until you have another? Yeah, a month is too old. I can't speak for everyone else, but my policy is a week for coverage. A week. Past that, anything past that is old news. So if it's a month old, yeah, you would need to have a music video or a remix, something else to pitch. But you don't have to craft a whole new pitch, obviously. As long as you have that story from your original pitch, it should be good.
So to go off that a little bit, if So if you were sending something out to a writer, and by the time they got back, or if you kept following up with the same person, and all you really had was that same track, would it be time for you to make a remix then at that point in time?
Yeah.
Okay. No,
Yeah.
very, very.
You would need some kind of new asset. Yeah. Because if you respond, or I'm sorry, if you follow up 6 times, odds are they've seen it and they're not going to respond. So, pumping some adrenaline into that original pitch with a new asset might be the best.
Okay.
Yeah. And then you can start a new thread so it's not a 7th pitch.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Okay. So it doesn't feel like you're just beating them over the head with the same thing over and over again.
Yeah. I mean, because at the end of the day, like, you don't want to cross the line over into invasion, right? You want to be respectful.
I can ask you a million questions, so I got another one for you. And feel free to.
Go ahead. Yeah. No,
So,
I'm all ears.
So for the person who's solely working on the craft, how much time would you spend? And I know this is a hard question to answer. How much time a day would you spend writing, sending writers information? How much time would you spend kind of putting stuff out? And I know that's hard to quantify, but
Sending writers information.
Or writing emails to writers, sending your pitch out. How many times would you send your pitch? How much time? Like an hour a day, a few hours a week? Like, how would you set yourself up to do that in a routine fashion? Like Tuesdays and Thursdays from 2 to 4. That's what I'm doing. Like, how is there any method to any kind of madness that you discovered in that?
Yeah. So to be honest, I would spend 80% of your time crafting your pitch, making it perfect. It needs to be perfect. And then the other 20 should be all the tedious, busy work, like the emailing, the compiling, all that. And that, the 80-20 combined, I think it should be an hour, maybe once every other day. If you really want to be heard and you want to send a lot of pitches, an hour, couple times a week. So 40 minutes crafting the pitch, making it perfect, and then the other 20, blasting it out.
Cool, thank you. Looks like Lindsay got one more in the chat.
What are the key assets?
Yeah. So what are the key assets that every email should have in it? So there's artwork. What if an artist doesn't have photos or press shots of themselves? What are absolute necessities in every email?
So I think you as a publicist know that this is like the most vexing aspect of a pitch. You need to have a song. You need to have the artwork. Socials are crucial because we have to know that you have some kind of plan to return the favor. Those 3 are the most crucial, and then after that, it's big to have some sort of visual aspect, and you don't need to have a big music video, but you could easily make a visualizer, some kind of cool, quick, like Instagram asset, which, there's tons of sites out there for people like me who don't know anything about Photoshop. So if you could make a cool little visualizer, that would be huge because it gives the blog incentive to share it to their followers, right? Because we'd be introducing them to like this new cool artist with this unique, I guess, brand.
Thanks. Would you say for a visualizer, would it be better to include it in the body of an email or as an attachment? Like, do you think attachments are a no-no when it comes to emails, or are you okay with them?
I actually prefer it attached. Because if you just include a link in the email, you don't see it. But if you attach it, it pops up as a thumbnail. So the writer can actually see like a little preview. And if something catches, my eye, if it's cool, like little kaleidoscopic, whatever, I'll pop it open. But if you just like drop in a link, like a Dropbox, there's no incentive for me to really click on it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. Okay,
Yeah.
last question about a perfect email. Would you say, is there a preferred platform? So I know artists have these things called smart URLs, which has YouTube, Spotify, SoundCloud. Do you mind that those are in there, or would you rather have one link to a song that takes you to it, or all of the choices?
I don't think it matters. I really don't, because one of them, if you use fan links, you have to click the fan link and then the list pops up and then you have to click whatever platform. And the other way is just, one click. So it's just one way is 2 clicks, the other way is 1. So I really don't, it's not a big deal for me.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. I mean, it's up to the pitcher, whoever is pitching. If you want the writer to focus on, say, just Spotify, and you want them to write about just your Spotify song to bump the streams there, you would do your Spotify link. If not, fan link.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions, Benoit?
Yeah, I'd like to know a little more about you. If I know we get into it, you've shared a lot with us. I'm always interested in somebody's story itself, so you gave us a little bit. What got you started in music in general? Like, was it a parent, a family, community? Like, just
I think we'll get into that. Yeah. So it was I was in college, and I actually didn't even like electronic at all. I couldn't even tell you who like Calvin Harris was. And a couple of friends of mine dragged me to Ultra in Miami. They bought me a ticket and they said, "You're coming." They just tossed me on a plane. And then I got there and I was like a deer in headlights, and I was immediately like immersed by all of it. It just I saw a couple artists and they blew my mind. And then from there I went home and I bought this tiny little crappy turntable set, and I was messing around with songs and doing my thing. I was horrible. Absolutely trash. And then I just got better. At the time, shortly after, months after Ultra, I realized how hard this was, to really learn the nuts and bolts of DJing. And I had told my girlfriend at the time, like, I'm going to quit. This is impossible. I don't know what to do. The more I look, the more I learn. Like, the more I research, the less I learn. It's confusing. And she looked at me and she said, "I will dump you right now. I don't date quitters." So I kept at it. I was really into her. I stayed at it. And I started to really focus, and I just got better. And we're engaged now, so it worked out.
Very, very, man, I appreciate you sharing those real things. Do you remember the name of that little crappy DJ thing that you had? What that was?
I know. It was a Pioneer. It was like one of the first MIDI Pioneer controllers that came out. I got it for like $80 at Best Buy. Yeah.
Very, very cool.
Yeah.
Man, you've given us so much information, real life stuff, real personal stuff, and I know it'll be beneficial to. It's been beneficial to me already. So I know for the network of people that we're giving information to and supporting, we'll find this time beneficial. So thank you so much for sharing the information, giving us some insight on you, and helping us give us some ideas on how to push ourselves forward through these crafts that we have. So really, really appreciate your time. I want to make sure if there's any more questions that anybody would like to ask, but I know we're coming close to the cap of time, so I want to respect it. So yeah, man, thank you so much. Please, we'll be around. Kids will be probably referring to you, so we may reach out to you for some guidance stuff here and there. I think Lindsay hinted at making one of your top favorite list of readers to check out, so we know kind of what to do as well. So please feel free to check us out anytime, and we will push your message and your words on to the masses, so we can make things better for everybody, man. So
thank you, man. I appreciate it.
All right, you guys. Appreciate you guys coming out. This is Industry Insight with Department of Sound. And everybody, take care of yourselves.